There he is again. Okay. Are we recording?
We are recording.
We're recording. Okay. This question had sprawl written all over it. So in order to limit the sprawl, I actually wrote out my answer. So this is going to sound a little more stilted than our usual conversational stuff here. Yes, it is too personal, but that concept, if it isn't gone from our society, definitely has its hat and coat on and 1 foot out the door. So, not to worry, MJ. I don't have a relationship with Deni, and I haven't had since the 1980s. On the rare occasion when I talked to Harlan Ellison on the phone, he'd invariably ask, "Do you ever hear from Deni?" After Deni and I broke up, Harlan and Deni didn't, quote, go out, unquote, but they did have a one-night stand or a fling of some kind. I think it was Harlan's idiosyncratically condescending way of saying, "Now that I've had her, you should think about taking her back." I usually just mumble something and answer. But finally, on one of the phone calls, I said, "No, Harlan, do you ever hear from any of your ex-wives?" And I put an end to the question. In the fornication/adultery universe I used to inhabit, a clean break seemed the most sensible thing. I would see guys dating women who were still good friends with their legion of ex-boyfriends, and it just really looked unhealthy for the current boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, and the woman herself. 23 years past my last relationship, which is what we're talking about right now, my view would be more along the lines of, quote, "Fornication and adultery don't work and can't be made to work. Pick someone and marry them and be with them for the rest of your life, or stay away from all of them and be alone. Capital B, capital A," unquote. I wish I had picked the latter 38 years ago instead of 23 years ago. Gerhard, no, I have zero contact with. The most succinct way of putting it is he decided that Dave Sim was the problem and Rose was the solution. An extension of the issue 186 societal conclusion, Dave Sim is the problem and feminism is the solution. My reaction to Gerhard's conclusion is the same and was the same as my reaction to society's conclusion. Quote, "I don't think that's going to work out for you, but that's your choice to make. Best of luck to you," unquote. OCD environmentalism, OCD LGBTQ, critical race theory, calling parents concerned about their children's education domestic terrorists, deplatforming, cancel culture are all implications of feminism run amok. 27 years after issue 186, in my view, the situation remains the same. To go from unhealthy to healthy, you first have to admit that you have a problem. And you have to accurately identify the source of the problem. The source of society's problems is feminism. We're no closer to admitting that as a society than we were 27 years ago. As Betty Davis said in All About Eve, quote, "Fasten your seatbelt, we're in for a bumpy ride," unquote. My best guess is 27 years in, our bumpy ride is just beginning. Thank you, MJ. If that doesn't clear the air, I doubt that anything I might say would clear the air. So there you go. One concise page. So moving on from that one, we've got Steve Swenson. Hello, Steve. Steve in Albuquerque. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hi, Matt. Okay, for the next Please Hold for Dave Sim event. What was the idea behind both the Party Pack and Ashcan issues from the Guy's era? Okay, we'll answer that part first. The idea was, that's issue 201 through 204, and what was happening was Mothers and Daughters was pretty much the longest storyline, and guys following it, there was no experience with a new storyline starting. Or I should correct that. There had been experience with it, but it had been 4 years since a new Cerebus storyline had begun, and everybody pretty much got caught flat-footed, including us. That everybody ordered their Cerebus 201s, and then ordered their Cerebus 202s, their 203s, and by the time that they ordered 203, 204, they had gotten 201 and were instantly sold out of 201. And can we get more of them? And it's like, no, you can't. It's we only print them once, and that's just how we have to do it on a monthly basis. We can't be doing second printing. Although we did end up doing that with Mothers and Daughters, but that was with single issues, and then it was, okay, which ones do they need? Okay, well, let's reprint 151, and then we'll reprint 152, and then 153, and we'll put second printings on them. And as the comic book field has always been, it's all over the map. I don't know how retailers do the job that they do. 151, we did the second printing, and I think pretty much all of them sold. Then 152, no, they didn't sell. It's like everybody wanted Mothers and Daughters 1 because it's got 1 on the cover, and nobody wanted Mothers and Daughters 2 because it had a 2 on the cover. Although some of them did because they just wanted to read it, and they didn't get to the store in time to buy 152 before it was sold out. So could we reprint it? So with Guys, it was, okay, instead of trying to accommodate those different audiences who are doing this for different reasons, we will do a separate package called Guys Party Pack that I think we printed 4 of them. I think it was 201 to 204, and we'll offer those after 204 has shipped. And that will allow the stores to fill in their back inventory so that people can start from the beginning. It'll allow the number 1 people to buy Cerebus Party Pack number 1, and it'll allow the people who only missed an issue to buy that issue, but they'll have to buy the whole package. And as I recall, that worked fine, but came up short. I don't know. That's one of Steve's questions is how many of them were there? Boy, I couldn't tell you. As far as I know, there were 2 printings because we did the 1 printing and sold all of them and came up short by 200 or 300 copies, and then went, well, okay, let's, we want to be as accommodating as possible here. So instead of just printing the 200 or so that we need, let's print 1,000. And then that way everybody's all set for Guys. And I think what happened was we were able to make up part of the order from what was left over of the first printing of Guy's Party Pack, and then we got a small reorder and filled that one, and then we were just lousy with Guy's Party Pack. I would have to check the inventory levels, but that's one of those books. I've still got way too many of them because there's just no way to really fix the problem. There's a sudden surge of demand. The surge of demand is very, very temporary and comes sort of late in the day, so it's very difficult to accommodate. And that covers the party pack. Then asking about the Ashcan. Was the Ashcan only available at conventions/retailer events? My recollection might be inaccurate on this, but as I recall, the Ashcan was only distributed at a Diamond event in Toronto, where Diamond actually did a separate retailer conference that they were doing at the time in Canada, even though they didn't really have a Canadian warehouse or anything like it. And my way of sort of accommodating this was, well, okay, you tell me how many retailers are going to be in Toronto who are going to get these retailer packs, and I'll do an Ashcan of 201 because we've just finished up 201. I don't think it had all of issue 201, but I think it had 16 pages or something like that. So that's my recollection on it. Going back a few years, it wouldn't surprise me that we sent them for the retailers for other events, but I really do think that this was the stars seem to be aligning correctly, that we'll be starting the new storyline and finishing that first issue just before this Diamond event in Toronto. So what the heck? Phone Kim at Prenny and tell them, can you do half-size Ashcans of Cerebus 201, this many pages, and, pretty please turn them around in a hurry. Ashcans were very fashionable at the time, so it's like, well, okay, we have never really done an Ashcan. Got some Ashcans that were just my personal reference of reduced photocopies of an issue so that I had it to refer to while I was working on the next issue. So this was a mass-produced Ashcan. And does the archive have a plethora of these in storage, or just a few, or perhaps none? That was one of those. I didn't even have a copy of the issue 201 Ashcan. And when we went down to record distribution in 2015 to clear out the warehouse because they were closing the warehouse and move all of the inventory to Kitchener, one of the things was a box that had about 20 copies of the Ashcan in it, and we had a bunch of people volunteering to help close the warehouse. I think about a half dozen or people just drove in because knew we needed a few pairs of hands. More hands, the better. And that was one of the things that was in a box just in Recker's office on the way into the warehouse. And I stopped by and, just a lot. It was a couple of days just opening boxes. I wonder what's in this one. I wonder what's in this one. opened that one and went, oh, the 201 Ashcan. Okay, well, now I got 20 copies of that. And then didn't check the box again until sometime later the next day, and the 20 copies were now 3 copies. So I definitely grabbed those and carried them around with me from then on. So those are the only Ashcan copies that I've got in the Cerebus archive. Could have been 20. Give your head a shake, Dave. This is a warehouse full of Cerebus fans. You can't just leave those lying around, and just be glad that there's still 3 of them there. So how many copies of the Party Pack and Ashcan issues were printed is Steve's follow-up question. Like I say, I would have trouble ballparking both of those for the 2 different reasons. I don't know how few retailers there were at the Diamond event in Toronto, and I don't know how many Party Packs we printed, aside from really way too many relative to the circulation at the time. But that was one of those things. If this helps us build up circulation, which it didn't, this is a good way to go about doing it. So we still have a lifetime supply of Guy's Party Packs, and if anybody wants to send a check for 10 or 15 bucks, I will get Rolly to pull out a Guy's Party Pack for them if that's a rarity from where you're sitting.
I was going to suggest, if you have so many that you don't know what to do with, how about you charge $50 American and they can get guaranteed genuine signed by Dave Sim with a remarked Cerebus Drunken Bubble drawn next to the signature.
It's a theory. It's a theory. We'll start it as a swordfish item. Just all of you people who are actual swordfishes, Cerebus swordfishes, and are interested in a Guy's Party Pack, just send me a postcard or a letter. If you've got a can number or anything like that, we've already got your address. Just write Swordfish Guy's Party Pack. Thanks, Dave, and we'll send one out to you.
Okay, I was trying to get AV a little bit of money.
Well, I appreciate that, but this is, please hold for Dave Sim, this is pretty exclusively 10 or 15 swordfish people. I don't think it's going to happen, man.
It always happens when we think it won't happen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Everybody will have forgotten by next time. So maybe in December we'll do the rare Guy's Party Pack offer. $50 for a Guy's Party Pack with Dave Sim signing it and writing the word drunk over his signature. Little Orphan Aardvark's Secret Society member, Toenail, a.k.a. Jen DiGiacomo. How many Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society members are there? Do you know offhand?
I want to say 10, but I haven't mailed a couple of them out yet because those people are getting them gratis because they're inner circle.
Okay.
Paid, I think, 7.
7? Okay.
Deion Turner's getting one because he cracked the code without a decoder wheel.
That's impressive.
That's why his secret society name is going to be TV after Mike TV from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, who cracked the code it's the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory remake movie. In that movie, Mike TV cracks the code on how to get a golden ticket, and he doesn't even eat the chocolate. He just did it to crack the code.
It's a practical enigma, he said enigmatically. Okay, over to Jen here. We're going to come back to the Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society and the decoder wheel in a few moments. It's showtime, folks. I include 2 fanzine covers by Mr. Sim that I stumbled across whilst searching the interwebs for simian ephemera. That's not right. Sim-esque? Simist. Never mind. I think that was one of those things God decided he was going to fix way, way before I got born. To keep people from doing that, let's make sure he's a sim. So nobody will use simian as the association. The illustrations date from 1982 and 1986 and are both related to Edgar Rice Burroughs. The latter is Aardvarks of Mars, and an impressive representation, thank you, of incorporating one's own creation into another fandom. The former seems to be a straight-up Tarzan sketch with Nair and Aardvark in sight. I am curious if there is any backstory here, or if 2 overzealous fans, Bill Ross and Michael Conran, respectively, merely published convention sketches without Dave's knowledge. That seems a likely possibility. I'm looking at the Aardvarks of Mars, and for 1986, that's definitely looking like a high-end convention sketch. It's not really complicated, but it's not really altogether simple either. So it would strike me that it's one of those conventions where I would have a sketch list and somebody said, can you do something related to John Carter of Mars? And it's like, haven't had one of those before. Okay, how much are you in for? And it looks like they probably said either 50 or 75 bucks for 1986, because I can tell by looking at it, I did take some time with it, and the Aardvarks of Mars is closer to an actual logo than would be on a $25 sketch where I would have just handwritten Aardvarks of Mars. What are those things called in John Carter of Mars? The ones with the 4 arms?
I should know this.
I should know this too. That was bothering me all day. And I'm going, Dave, you have other things to look up. You can't be trying to figure out, okay, were they thoats or thunks or...
Yeah, that sounds right. Tyrus Tarkus is the character's name. They're known as Green Martians. Yeah. See, now it's going to bug you too.
Now I'm going to get up, walk 3 feet, grab my copy of Princess of Mars off the bookshelf.
While I fill in the dead air here. They were all over the place. It was one of those things that really appealed to me when I was whatever age I was when I read John Carter of Mars. And I remember Jim Ivey did a magazine that was actually a fanzine, but also a newsstand magazine called Monsters and Heroes. I think the first issue of that I actually found on a newsstand in Kitchener, and I still can't believe that happened. There was actually an article on John Carter of Mars where somebody drew whatever they were called. And I had never seen one of them actually drawn and went, wow, that's really impressive. So that would be one of the things figuring into by putting more time into this drawing, that whatever those things are called, this was my first try at drawing one of them and doing Cerebus as one of them. Have you found whatever the...
It's not in the table of contents.
So it's or
That's Thark. Thark. Thark.
Thank you. They're Tharks. Tharks for the memories. Okay, moving on to the next cover. That one, the signature definitely looks like 1982 tour. I don't know how long I did that signature, but it seems to be idiosyncratic to the 1982 tour, where I didn't put a box around Dave Sim. I did this sort of rounded box. And that one, I think somebody came up and said, "Can you do me a Tarzan?" And I went, "You mean Cerebus as Tarzan?" And they went, "No, Tarzan. Can you do me a Tarzan?" And it's like, I thought, well, okay. It's not as if I don't know what Tarzan looks like. And definitely looking at the picture, I was having a flashback to Neil Adams' Tarzan covers, which was in 1982, would probably have been the last major re-release of the Tarzan books. They would do that every once in a while, re-release all the Tarzan books and, get presented to do all the covers. And those sold really good. And I think Neil was hot enough, whatever year that was, that they went, well, we'll get Neil Adams to do all of the Tarzan covers. And I think he did like the first 8 or 10 or however many there were. And it's like, yeah, well, a sketch is a sketch is a sketch. I don't really have to worry about getting Tarzan right. I know exactly the Tarzan in my mind. This will give me an excuse to do a Neil Adams riff that isn't Moonroach. And again, it looks like this for 1982, probably looking at a $25, $30 sketch for that. So, and in those cases, having printed a number of people's artwork, Jeff Jones, Hal Foster in Now and Then Times, without permission, having just had the original available through Harry Kremer. This was always a karma thing. Anything that I did as a convention sketch, that if you think it's good enough to put on the front of your fanzine, or if you even think it's good enough to just stick on a back page in your fanzine, you would know that better than I would. Probably would have been better if they had used the Tarzan illustration a little larger and cut it into the collector part of the logo. But not having done that, it's one of those, hey Jen, if you're looking for a place to will those to in your will, the Cerebus archive would be delighted to have those. If I ever got copies, I don't remember ever getting copies, and that's one of those things that when you do as much drawing over as many years as I do, this stuff is going to come out of the woodwork eventually, and here it is. So I appreciate you letting me have a look at these. Those are to the best of my recollections that I could give you. And we've got another Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society member, Zipper, a.k.a. Easton, Pennsylvania's very own Michael R. Opens a can of worms with, "Hi, Matt. Love the decoder wheel. It's not a bookmark. I wish I got more of them to play with the other kids. Laugh out loud." Maybe you could send send Michael R. A couple of more decoder wheels, and he and the folks in eastern Pennsylvania can have fun with them. Hi, Dave. I noticed something with Gary Boyarski's Jack Grimm's Halloween Kickstarter. I believe you had promised Gary a cover for Jack Grimm if he had reached a threshold with his book. And you did. Yeah, that was actually a thing through Alfonso, where because most of these guys print through Alfonso, it's like, who has the most issues out right now? And it was the Aurora Man guy who had the most number of issues. So I did a cover for Aurora Man. And then Gary, having gotten wind of this, really busted his own hump to an amazing degree to get enough issues out to overtake Aurora Man, and called in his chit on when do I get my cover. I'm guessing that unbeknownst to you, that Gary asked Gerhard to color what you had drawn. I'm guessing again, Gerhard had decided to put his spin on it and create a new background, as if both of you had collaborated on the piece, and get the quote team unquote back together one more time to benefit Gary's Jack Grimm's Kickstarter even more. Is the reason that you asked Gary to take your name off the collaboration because no one asked you if this would be okay? Michael R. And then you write, I mean, that's basically what happened. I can just send Zipper a private message with the hoopla, and we can keep the Macquarie family's dirty linen from public consumption. Let's see. That was another one of those where I went, well, if I start answering that one, that's going to go sprawling all over the place, or is in danger of sprawling all over the place. So let's try and de-sprawl that one. And okay, here it is. This is another one. Let's write it all out. I don't wish anyone ill, not Deni, not Gerhard, no one. But in my mid-60s, it's very difficult to stay focused on everything I need to stay focused on. Prayer, fasting, reading scripture aloud, making enough money to keep the doors open and the lights on at Aardvark Manor, finishing Strange Death of Alex Raymond before I die, and keeping up with everything going on with Cerebus in Hell with a question mark. All of it on the fly. I will add that I've got the front lawn covered with $18,000 worth of roofing material, $18,000 Canadian, but still. And that's another one of those on-the-fly things. And I really find anything that isn't one of those things to be beside the point. I don't have internet access for primarily that reason. Amok, if I had access to it, would distract me from work and everything else that my life is made up of. I will interrupt at this point and say that you are very, very good about that, considering that you are the temporary gatekeeper for Amok. There are very, very few occasions when you fax me stuff that I really didn't need to see this. If I needed to see things like this, I would have internet access, and I don't, so that I don't have these things distracting me. Getting back to this, the only place I can see Gerhard fitting into any of those contexts is, quote, money to keep the doors open and the lights on, unquote. If anyone wants to pay me to draw a 4-inch or 5-inch tall Cerebus, let's say the exact size is arbitrary, but, around there, on whatever size a sheet of watercolor paper, and then deliver it to Gerhard or mail it to Gerhard. And if that anyone is willing to pay me, say, $600, and then pay Gerhard whatever Gerhard wants to charge them to fill the rest of the sheet with a background and watercolor, watercoloring, I'm fine with that. Just Cerebus, no Jaka, Lord Julius, the Roach, etc. And Gerhard is welcome to do whatever Gerhard wants to do that someone will pay him to do. But I really don't want to hear about it if it involves my work. As you said, I just thought you would think it was neat. Gerhard and Gerhard's work aren't in that category for me. I would have no interest in seeing what Gerhard did with my 4-inch or 5-inch tall Cerebus. Just the $600 I would get paid to do it, and the fact that it would make a Cerebus fan happy. Thank you for your phone message, Michael. I'm glad you liked the number 26 sketchbook cover as much as you did. I realized $600 was a big spend for you and Grace. It was a strange thing when I was doing it that it was the only one with Cerebus's vest. Why am I putting a vest on this one? And then I rippled to it. I think what happened there was, Michael, you sent me a mental zeitgeist message about wanting Cerebus the Pope before you actually email, fax, relayed me the request, which came in after I had the number 26 done. And that's what I was doing. And it's like, I drew a blank. What's that purple scarf that he wears, that the Pope wears? What do you call that when a priest wears one of those, or a minister wears one of those, or the Pope wears one of those? It's not a scarf.
Vestments.
It's a what?
Vestments.
Vestments. No. Vestments is the tunic. I already looked that one up.
Oh, then I don't know.
Okay, so we might make that our secret decoder question, or a part of the secret decoder question. I'm gonna leave all of that up to you, but you have to answer these questions. What are the four-armed things in John Carter of Mars called? What is that scarf that Cerebus wears as the Pope called? We'll think of a couple of more trivia questions there. So getting back to Michael R. No, I haven't gotten your letter. He said in the phone message that he had an interesting story about where the $600 for the sketchbook cover came from, and did I get the letter yet? And no, I haven't gotten the letter yet, but I'm looking forward to it now. Michael R. is another one of those guys. If you don't hear from him, like David Birdsong, I always tell him, anytime I don't hear from David Birdsong for a while, the next time I hear from him, it's going to be a really interesting story. This one was when he uncovered the nest full of yellow jackets and got stung like 60 times. So anyway, that's the bottom line on that one. There's an answer, Michael, to your Gerhard question, and a special thank you for really going out on a limb. Like I say, I know 600 is a big spend for him and Grace on something like that, and just really glad that he was pleased with it and not going, why was I the only guy that got it?
Well, getting back to the, just really quickly, the not sending you stuff that you're not interested in, there's 3 reasons for that. One is, when I fax stuff, I always think, is this the beginning of the toner cartridge or the end of the toner cartridge? Because if it's the beginning, I don't want to waste it, and if it's the end, I'm afraid that nothing's going to come through.
Well, it'll still retain it in the machine until I get the toner.
But the mentality there is very much I'm not sending this digitally where I can email all day, every day, and it doesn't matter, it's all electronic. This is physical media where at a certain point there's no paper, there's no ink, and we have to wait to get it. So this is really important.
Grandpa's actually getting better about that now. It's like I used to tell Rolly, I just put the last one in, so can you get me another one? And then I realized, no, with this whole supply line thing, and sometimes Walmart has them, and sometimes Walmart doesn't. Sometimes he's got to order them online. I'll tell Rolly when I put in the second last one, and Rolly is now in the habit of anytime that I ask him for one of them, he picks up two. So we're all getting used to each other on this thing.
Well, the other reason is when I do fax, it's okay, let's keep this short and sweet, because 15-page faxes are okay, but 5-page faxes are ideal.
Yes, especially if they're all just pictures and stuff with little captions on them.
And that's, it's big enough that Dave can see it, small enough that it doesn't take up more than a page.
Right.
If I can get 2 to a page, oh man, that's like Christmas.
It's a need to know thing. It's like you have a pretty good instinct about, this will, whatever Dave's answer is to this, I'm hoping it's just 2 lines or a paragraph, and it'll fill up a day on a moment of Cerebus and make your burden a little lighter as well.
Well, the problem with that is that invariably something happens, and all of a sudden I have 5 days worth of faxes, and I'm like, nope, they're all going up at once.
Right.
I just did a post, and the title was, I don't want to run 11 pages of faxes from Dave, but I have to.
Well, that's one of those things too, where it's like, okay, I think this is interesting enough that a moment of Cerebus people will be interested in it. It'll fill up a day for Matt, but I never know how you're doing with, okay. Sometimes you need them, and sometimes you're up to your eyeballs in post.
Well, what happened is right before the end of October, Paula had to do her schedule online for work, basically of what patients she's going to go and see, and then she had to do the schedules for 3 other nurses filling holes because they're understaffed, and she warned me, when I get home I need the computer. I'm like, I'm just going to skip the blog today, and if anyone complains, it's not going to matter. And so a bunch of faxes came in on a Tuesday, and then they came in on a Wednesday, which Wednesday's Hobbs post, so I don't have to worry about it. And Thursday is Margaret, or the Aardvark Short Sword and Flames. So by the time Saturday rolled around, it's like, I have 11 pages of faxes. Well,
there you go.
It's going to be a long post, but it's going to be worth it, because it's going to be all about the Russian Cerebus possible hardcover trade paperback.
Yes, the A Moment of Cerebus viewers' cup runneth over, and I can't think that that's totally a bad thing, although it is a sort of counterintuitive internet thing. What are you doing posting 11 pages of anything? This is too long, didn't view.
There was one day where I was doing updates on, I think it was Spawn 10, Strange Death of Alex Raymond, the Carson and Sean version. Hobbs had his Kickstarter, and there was an update for that, and there was like 5 or 6 other things were okay, and I got to the very end, and I'm like, oh yeah, Moment of Cerebus, and I just put one of the Cerebus in Hell images were of just Cerebus, and I'm like, that counts.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you're the arbitrator of that. If you say it's a post, it's a post.
I always joke that the readership continually goes, I miss Tim.
Okay, I think we're coming up on the end here. Yes, Dion Turner, the Enigma guy who cracked the code. TV. Question for Dave. If I've made the cutoff time, or roll it over to next month. If not, no, you made it, Dion. Cerebus losing his ear in reeds. Was this injury something that you knew was coming, or was it not until you were laying out the fight that you thought he was going to need a reminder of this for the rest of his life? And was it always specifically going to be his ear? Definitely, I would say the decision was made very, very close to all of the stuff going down on the page, in line with, I wanted this to be the most blood-soaked fight scene in the history of comics, which at least to that point it was. I'm sure we have competition since then. And one of the things would have been, okay, if you really want that to stick, have a permanent injury of some kind. Otherwise, it's just, as soon as you wash all the blood off, there's really not that much there. So, okay, it looked a lot worse than it is. I wanted it to be at least as bad as it looked. So that was, and was it always specifically going to be his ear? No, again, it was. It would have been. Well, this is going to take a certain amount of guts to mutilate your own character, and to do it in such a way that he's going to have that from then on. I mean, from that point in the storyline, which was 100 issues to go. Are you sure you want to do this? Because we're not going to do a Marvel Comics and then the Cosmic Cube came from Galaxy whatever, and poof, Cerebus's ear grew back. Hey, wow, ultra cool. And it was also, okay, from now on, you're always going to have to remember which ear it is. You can't suddenly have a two-eared Cerebus. This is something you're going to have to concentrate on. And it was, yes, this is something that I want to do. I would have had, to the point where that happened in the fight, I had that long to go, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? And by the time I got there, it was like, yes, I'm definitely going to do this. This is not something where I would go, no, nice idea, but let's try and make sure that we always keep Cerebus in one piece.
Well, it was vaguely foreshadowed in Flight when the Pigott statue reassembles and then the ear falls off.
Yeah, that's. I would like to claim that, but I don't think that's what happened. I think that was one of those, there's my conscious mind and my unconscious mind and my superconscious mind, and very possibly my superconscious mind went, hey, this would be pretty cool because, I know what's happening however many issues from now. But Dave doesn't, so, we'll do this. As far as I know, that's what the situation was. Given in Mind's creator Dave also gives him an eye operation. I was wondering if there was ever a potential that it was going to be the one injury, loss of an eye. I suspect not, given the story that creator Dave shares on the procedure. The eye was never going to be that kind of an injury. The point was going to be that, particularly for Cerebus, who has no idea about modern ophthalmology and how you treat these things, this is a really, really horrific thing to have happen. But it wasn't that big a deal. And particularly the injection that he got first, it's like, okay, you can't even pretend that this hurts, or hurts in quotation marks. Having gone through the procedure, it's no fun having a needle go in close to your eye, but from then on, there was just absolutely no sensation. And although I had a bandage over top of it, the bandage was really not necessary after even an hour or so. That's just self-pitying histrionics on Cerebus's part. That as long as he's got this bandage over his eye, they can talk about this horrific thing that happened to him. He's Cerebus, the hero. If so, then, in parentheses, to paraphrase an often asked question, close parentheses, why an ear? Tying it to historical characters, we have Van Gogh, but he did that to himself, and the voices in Cerebus's head that cause him to self-harm don't show up until later in Guy's and Rick's story. So there is a connection / reflection / echo of Van Gogh there, even with the cart before the horse, or ear before the voices, as it were. Yes, definitely. I thought of Van Gogh through that whole situation, and I have a residual curiosity that if anybody would like to fax Dave Sim something, whatever is the definitive Van Gogh biography, and I'm not even enough of a fan to know whether there is such a thing or which one it is, I would be very interested in reading that part, because I do remember reading something about that no, he didn't cut off his ear, he cut off the ear lobe or a part of his ear. And do you know anything about this? That it was for a dancer at the Folie Bergère, or a prostitute, or someone where talk about excessive engagement, considering that you are and will one day be Van Gogh. This is a really, really strange thing to do. I was wondering how much information is there on it.
I believe that he actually only cut off the earlobe. He didn't cut off the whole ear.
Right.
But I also know there's an episode of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, where there's a collector who has, I think it might have been, I can't remember if it's Luther or somebody else, but it's a rich collector who has Van Gogh's other better self-portrait. And it's one of the famous self-portraits, only it's an ear on a chair.
Okay. Well, that's semi-helpful.
Okay. But I do believe it was just the earlobe. I can't I know it was to impress somebody, but that's where it's one of those. The story is it's it's Rashomon of depending on who you ask and what source you find.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that I know there's a number of biographies of him, but I'm curious as to which one would be, which one is the best for sourcing, and which one is the biography that was written based off the biography that was written, based off the biography that was written, yada, 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 to the point where it's like, he painted sunflowers is the only thing that you can believe out of the book.
Right. I mean, did he refer to it in any of his letters to his brother? Because I know that the correspondence between those two is really the primary source material. If straight from the horse's mouth, yes, this is a letter that he wrote where he said that he did this, and how much of it. I mean, that's one of those things. The legend is going to start cropping up practically in the first half hour, and never really calm down from there. How much is this covered? Because it is, like you say, most of us only know, well, I know that he painted sunflowers and I know he cut off his ear. And he never sold a painting in his life.
No. He sold one, possibly two.
Okay, see, even that he didn't sell a painting is apocryphal. So this is one of those.
The only reason I know this is I looked it up because I've sold 3 paintings, and that's one more than Van Gogh.
How'd it go, Matt? Take that, Vincent. Okay. Yeah, see, this is one of the reasons that I don't have the internet. It's like, I've got, can I even dream of getting Strange Death of Alex Raymond done before I die? Sitting there mulling it over and then going, Van Gogh's ear. Let's just type that in and see what comes up. And it's like, it would probably be 50, 60 pages of stuff. And it's like, Grandpa, there are other things for you to be interested in. But, yeah, if there's any, I would certainly be interested in reading a chapter, 10 pages or something like that, just to put my mind at rest and go, okay, this is all that we really know about this. And then Dion goes on. The only other ear story I can think of is Jesus reattaching a guard's ear at Gethsemane after one of his disciples went a bit sword happy. Yeah, that was one of those. Okay, as soon as I read that, I went, well, okay, I know what the Johannine Jesus situation is. Peter in John's Gospel is the one that draws his sword and cuts off the right ear of one of the chief priest's slaves. And then I went, okay, there's analogs of this in the Synoptic Gospels. Let's check those. 2 of them mention that one of Jesus' disciples did this, pulled out a sword and cut the ear of a slave of the chief priest. And one of the accounts has, it says, cut off his little ear. And it's like, okay, I don't know what that is, which, explains why the Christian fathers didn't, translate that part. Let's just leave off the little, let's just make it an ear. Why does it say little ear? And it's only in Luke's Gospel that he heals the ear. And that's one of those, well, okay, did he cause a new ear to grow, or did he reattach the ear? Because that, those are 2 different things, and I like Dion, I'm pretty sure almost all of the Christian gospel translations of Luke say that he reattached the ear. And it's like, well, no, if it says he healed the ear, that doesn't mean he reattached it. That means he healed it. And there are 2 different ways to heal it, reattaching it and causing a new one to grow. So that was one of those interesting things, particularly the fact that, like I say, in John's Gospel, Peter's the one that cuts off the ear, and in the other, Matthew and Mark, it's only a disciple, and doesn't specify who it is, because, of course, I'm the guy that thinks that there are 2 different Jesus, so I haven't been able to figure out whether the trial of Synoptic Jesus came first or the trial of the Johannine Jesus came first. And then everybody, when they scattered from one of them, they went to the other one, as far as I can determine. So that essentially Judas turned them both in. That's, to me, what the Johannine Jesus is saying. what you are doing, do more quickly. And none of the disciples knew, well, what does he mean when he says to Judas, what you're doing is do more quickly. I think Judas's plan was to turn them in one at a time. It's like if he turns in the synoptic Jesus and he passes muster with the high priest and the Sanhedrin as the Mashiach, then that settles the issue. We don't have to worry about it. If they say this is a false Mashiach and they execute him or imprison him, then that means, okay, the Johannine Jesus could still be him. Let's turn him in. And I think the Johannine Jesus was being told what was going on and was going, no, we want both of these, you being captured and Synoptic Jesus being captured to happen simultaneously or as close to simultaneously as possible. And that's why he said to Judas, what you're doing, do more quickly. So let's see where that brings us, which would have made. In minds, both Siren and Cerebus get healed, probably more to prevent blood loss and passing out. And also not having to draw all that blood all over for another however many pages, which would have made a boring comic. And like I say, not only have to draw all that blood all over Cerebus for however many more issues, but how do you get a facial expression to show through all of that blood? But Cerebus is never restored / made whole, which I expect Creator Dave could have done. I'm not sure if this was on your mind at the time, as we're still a bit before Rick's story, but your research into the Bible may have been underway. Would have been underway, but no, I didn't make the connection between Cerebus losing his ear and the chief priest's slave losing his ear in all four Gospels, but described differently and with different perpetrators. What we do get in mind, and what I think the real point of the year is the discussion between Cerebus and his creator, where Cerebus demonstrates time and again that he just doesn't listen. It's the most simple view of it, and that's probably what makes it right. He gets another prompt early in Guys where he dreams his other ear is cut off. Yes, there is a story point there where he's telling lies about Bear and becoming ridiculously drunk to the point where he has no recollection or control. But once again, I think it's Creator Dave telling him, you're still not listening, which in the end takes him all the way back to Sand Hills Creek, a season too late. Yes, astutely put. I think that was part of the enactment in the Bible, was reinforcing the fact that this was the culpability of not only the chief priest and not only the Sanhedrin and everybody in proximity, was you're not listening. If you want to determine if this is the Mashiach, you have to listen to what he's saying. And they weren't prepared to do that. In John's Gospel, when he does finally get to Caiaphas, the high priest, it's just a complete rubber stamp. We don't even hear or see what happens. It's just they brought him in. Yeah, fine, take him over to Pilate. And it's like, you're the chief priest of the Jews, and you don't even want to hear what the Mashiach might have to say to you. Talk about cutting off your ear. Hope you're both doing well. I always enjoyed the please holds. Well, thank you, Dion, and be sure to say hi to Rebecca for me. And thank you for a very elaborate question there.
You know, the thing with the eye and minds and the ear and reads, I mean, whatever significance to the story those injuries have is completely ruining guys when Mick asks either Harrison or George, why do you suppose there was only one eye and one ear? Maybe you only saw one tit. But of course, there's a subtle, if that were true, because Cerebus is a hermaphrodite, and the Cernus wouldn't necessarily punish a woman as harshly as a man, that would be why one ear and one eye.
That never occurred to me, but that's a good one.
It just occurred to me now. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Cernus law, they're not as harsh with the women as they are with the men, because mothers and potential mothers have more rights than men.
Resonating nicely with Rick only getting one of his thumbs broken.
Exactly. Because he's a girly boy.
There you go. But
it's like you have this amazingly fantastic, detailed, schizophrenia-induced world that everyone else, it's just a comic, it doesn't matter. But does it?
Well, yeah, this is, we're both sort of like standing there looking at what we just described and going, how about that? Is that actually in there, or are we just both schizophrenic in the same way?
Well, on Twitter, somebody shared the image of Norman Rockwell's Shuffleton Barbershop and made mention of, hey, look, these are actual comics. And they asked Eric Larson, because Eric Larson has a encyclopedic knowledge of comics that's very, very deep. And they asked, do you know what covers these are? And because I follow him on Twitter, I saw him like, oh, Dave Sim and I figured this out 10 years ago. Or more. And
did you know where to find it?
Oh yeah, I went back in my email because that was at the Norman Rockwell thing, and afterward we were posting about it to the Cerebus Yahoo group, and I have all those emails because I'm a digital hoarder.
Right.
And I found where I had talked about it, and then John L had talked about it, and John was the one that found the original covers to share it with everybody. So I posted it all on Twitter, and everybody was like, and it was one of those, Eric Larson found the Donald Duck, and I'm like, oh yeah, the other two are Gabby Hayden's Western and Crime Does Not Pay. And somebody went, well, the logo doesn't look like crime. I'm like, yeah, no, we discovered that somebody at the Saturday Evening Post covered up the logos.
Right. So was there a lot of, hey, round of applause for the Cerebus people?
Like four or five people, because I comment, anybody that commented on it, I commented with the same basic information, but said a different way, as just getting this out there. Like, this was settled a while ago. Like the Norman Rockwell Museum has it on file of, hey, at this particular show, these guys figured this out. So there was a little bit of applause, but not a lot.
Not a lot. Well, it's the internet. They're just looking for somebody to string up from the nearest tree. So their minds are always on that. It's pretty cool seeing the aardvark here. We're at the end with Johnny Scrabbles wants to know if you have Conan number 14, The Coming of Elric. Yes, I do. It's definitely a reading copy, but it was well read when I was trying to figure out how to do DWS. I suspect if you did own it, you sold it when you moved up. It wasn't in good enough shape to sell, Matt. So there you go.
Well, so Johnny Scrabbles asked us on Facebook, and John Christensen, who is a retailer, I believe, from Texas.
Yeah.
Asked about. He wonders what all you have in your comic collection. And then he posted an image of his run of the Barry Windsor Smith Conan books going, does anybody else think these are necessary for Cerebus completus.
I hope not. Everybody will go bankrupt.
Well, a couple guys commented going, well, yeah, if you're truly obsessive.
Okay.
I think Jeff Seiler owned most of those books.
Did
he? When he was telling me what he was leaving me, he said he had 2 long boxes and 2 short boxes, and he's got a Savage Sword of Conan #1. And I think the way he made it sound was it was in like 9.8 condition and possibly was slabbed.
How about that? Mine are well thumbed. My issue 1 and issue 2 because of the red nails, and they definitely got some miles on them.
I'm assuming they kind of look like the stack of Morpheus the Dream King that Cerebus was reading at Mr. McGursky's house.
Yes, good example. And for maybe a higher intention purpose that I can't keep these in mint if I'm going to be referring to them correctly. Okay, coming into the final glide pattern, Mikhail Bosharov posted on the Face It books. Fun fact. In the animated series about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003, there was an episode adaptation of the plot of the 8th TMNT issue about Cerebus. The character was cut out, the story was rewritten a little, but such an Easter egg flashed through. And then you say, that's the aardvark I mentioned last month in the episode The Turtles and Rene fell out of a portal. The aardvark looks at them, looks away, and snorts derisively. Aaron Wood commented on the post, would have been a great opportunity for an action figure, which is where when you jump in, which is where I really should ask if you want me to contact NECA. What is NECA? What does that stand for?
NECA. It's the name of the company. They make toys. I'm trying to remember. I think they do statues and stuff too. But right now they're doing it's essentially remastered action figures from the 90s. So it's the little toys from the late 80s, early 90s, but they're now 7 inches tall with more articulation, better looking accessories. But it's the toy you had as a kid, the way you would have wanted it as a kid, is how they kind of sell them. And
right.
They just teamed up with Stan Saki, and now they're doing Yosagi Yojimbo.
Okay.
And they announced that, and somebody on Twitter was like, hey, what about Cerebus? And I'm like, well, I can ask Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome to go ahead with that. I didn't want to get to the point where I was signing a contract on it, which was what scuttled it with Pete Laird way back when. But if they're interested in doing a Cerebus as he appeared in TMNT number 8, that would really be a completely different thing. That would be it was in TMNT number 8, and they would be licensing this from Viacom, right?
Yeah, that would be the way that I believe. I mean, they would have to get Viacom to sign off on it as well, but I know they'd have to get you to sign off.
Yeah, I mean, it would be one of those. I've never sued anybody before, and I certainly wouldn't start with you guys, kind of thing. It would probably be worth an email trying to explain to them why you're authorized to be contacting them about this. Just make up a title for yourself.
Oh, I already have a title. If I contact them as Ron Essler, I'm the senior executive assistant senior executive assistant in charge of Zuckerberg-based social media.
Okay.
Well,
all right. Ron's really coming up in the world.
Oh, no. Ron also has a job with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Marvel Universe doing differential cartography. And when I posted that, because I found a website where you can make badges for S.H.I.E.L.D., and it gives you what department you're in, and you can fill it in. So I filled in differential cartography, and somebody went, what does that mean? Like, mapping alternate universes? Because
there you go.
If I were in the Marvel Universe, that's the kind of job I'd want.
You go, Ron.
So, the thing about Contact and NECA, I just saw a quote from John Carpenter where he was asked about all the sequels to Halloween. And, because they're not necessarily the best movies, and it's very formulaic, and why do they keep making these things? And he's like, here's how it works. I'm sitting in my chair in the living room. They say on TV, hey, we're doing another Halloween sequel. I stick out my hand, and a check appears.
I'll take that. That's my kind of business. So NECA is just NECA. It doesn't stand for anything.
It might.
Let me rephrase that. NECA doesn't stand for anything.
It might, but I'd have to look into it. But I will reach out. I'll go through their website and contact. I'll, basically explain. Dave's not on the internet, but I can, anything you got to tell Dave, I can tell Dave. Anything Dave's got to tell you, I can tell you. I can be the middleman. But the short answer is there is an interest in the Cerebus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure. If you guys want to do it, we can make it happen. But it involves Dave sitting in his living room, reaching out his hand and getting a check.
And George Peter Gatzis, it's like I've got his Cerebus figure here. I would be happy to, at the very least, email them photos of it. And part of their work is already done that way. But you would have to cross Sahib George Gatzis' palm with Silver Sahib.
That's pretty much, I kind of figured it was you're not going to say no, but at the same time, it's getting a hold of somebody, getting them to realize I'm not just some random kook from the internet. I'm actually the random kook who knows the real world kook that you guys want to talk to.
Right. You're the Ron Essler.
Well, I would send it from the Moment of Service email, so it would be Manly Matt Dow. I would make sure that they know I'm as up and up as I can get for a guy that runs a blog about a comic that ended in 2004.
Well, he's shouldn't it be Manly Matthew Dow?
Yeah.
You want to use your full name with these corporate types just to keep them on their toes.
Well, I figure if I put Manly, they'll get confused and think I'm Stanley, and then they'll be like, hey, we can get Spider-Man. I can get you a spider. Might not be a man. Might be a little shorter with more arms.
Something like that.
Next thing,
Essler the man.
Next thing you know, they're going to be going, hey, we want to do a Spider-Vark figure, and you're like, hey, you want to talk to George or to Jim Shooter's lawyers? Go ahead.
There you go. Okay, I'm going to run along, Matt, but before I go, I had Rolly pull out one of the Cerebus the Sketchbook watercolors before he sent the rest of them to Heritage Auctions. This is number 10, sequentially number 13, and it's sitting right here in front of me, and somebody is going to get that at a Moment of Cerebus when they figure out all of the clues and a bunch of stuff on the decoder wheel, and that will tell them what day it is that they have to be the first person to post the word swordfish. Closest to that time that Manly Matthew Dow will set, and I I will personalize it to them if they want it, and just leave it the way it is if they want it, and it will go directly to them, completely free of charge.
So wait, I gotta come up with this contest?
Yes, you have plenty of time. It's just
well, it's. I'm thinking already. It's gonna be. I'm gonna make it. It's gonna have to be not necessarily hard, but labor intensive enough that Michael Ard isn't a shoo-in.
That's the challenge. That's the challenge, and find a way to include other people too. You could have I don't know playoffs where you get a wild card spot coming down to the wire. Is the wild card guy actually going to go to the finals, and keep everybody in contention, and make sure that it's something that just completely creates obsessive compulsive disorder viewership of a moment of Cerebus, because the Cerebus, the sketchbook, is on the line, and you have to be on your toes, and you have to be on a moment of Cerebus practically 24/7, because if you're not, Michael R. will be.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go, Matt.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night, Dave. Bye.
Talk to you next one. Bye-bye.
Okay, people. We're not starting the contest now, but we do have a message from Little Orphan Aardvark herself. So, for all the members of the Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society, and if you want to get in, remember there's 3 ways to get in. Number 1, send 50 Ovaltine proofs of purchase to Dave along with $8 for shipping and handling. He still doesn't know about that. Number 2, you can buy copies of the coronavirus books from me. Just send an email to momentofcerebus@gmail.com saying that you want the coronavirus books, and it's $4 a book plus probably more for shipping. They keep changing that, and we'll iron out those details later. The third way is to send an email to momentofcerebus@gmail.com saying that you want a Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society official decoder bookmark, which isn't really a bookmark because it's 6.5 inches wide, but it's $5 for one of those, and once I get the money, I mail it out. I hand create each one, carefully cutting the circles out, taking precise measurements to put the hole through the middle so that they aren't completely screwed up. And if you have a screwed up one, congratulations, that's before I remembered that I owned a ruler. Anyway, Aardvark's important message for you, the members of the Secret Society. Get ready, pen and paper, write it down, because I'll probably put it online and you'll just take a screenshot and Dion will just hack it because he's a genius. But set your decoder wheels to A equals copyright. The important message that Aardvark's counting on you to decode as soon as you possibly can, because this is time sensitive, is heart, E, copyright. Is that O or 0? Yeah, we'll say 0. It's either O or 0. You'll figure it out. Infinity, diamond, I, space, heart, infinity, Aries, copyright, 2, the, 3, G, space, V, skull and crossbones, diamond, Q, 4, space, S, skull and crossbones, 2, I, E, 4, space, 4, skull and crossbones, space, 3, E, 4, space, 9, skull and crossbones, 5, 2, space, A, heart, skull and crossbones, A, spade, 3, space, D, copyright, A, spade, space, skull and crossbones, diamond, E, space, M, skull and crossbones, 5, 2, space, skull and crossbones, diamond, space, 3, 5, diamond, V, copyright, 9, Pisces, space, T, N, excuse me, let's start that word over, T, 9, skull and crossbones, 5, 2, space, A, E, heart, heart, space, O or 0, man, I gotta get a better font for that, or 0, M, skull and crossbones, diamond, E, space, 7, infinity, heart, heart, space, 0, 2, skull and crossbones, D, copyright, D, heart, 9, space, A, M, copyright, diamond, I, E, space, infinity, 4, 3, E, heart, S, Pisces, 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 L, space, 8, skull and crossbones, 8, skull and crossbones, space, heart, infinity, 4, 4, heart, E, space, skull and crossbones, 2, 0, M, copyright, diamond, space, copyright, copyright, 2, V, 6, copyright, 2, spade. Let me just double check my little wheelie here. Hey, what do you know? Yeah, all those O's are actually zeros. There is no O on the code. Well, I'm pretty smart. I should have figured that out. Alright, so that was your message from Little Orphan Aardvark. Decode as fast as possible and send your response to mouseskull at, or it's not mouseskull, momentofservice@gmail.com, and it will count as 1 point towards whatever contest we come up for 10/13 Aardvark Sword and Flames. And if you're not a member of the Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society and want to become a member, remember, you can send 50 Ovaltine proofs of purchase to Dave along with $8. He has no idea about that. Or email momentofservice@gmail.com and say, I want into the Secret Society. Please, 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 how do I get in? And then you PayPal me the money, and then I eventually remember to send a package, and the postman finally brings it after weeks and weeks of waiting. You know, the joke was 6 to 8 weeks for delivery, and now sadly it's probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. Thank you to everyone who listened to Please Hold for Dave Sim for November of 2021. I hope you had a good time. And if you didn't, by the time you get to this point, you're probably not going to listen to this point to hear me say thank you for listening. You're probably going to have stopped hours ago and commented on the YouTube video or the blog post when this goes up that I suck and I'm fat and what else does the anonymous 2 minutes hate say? I can't repeat in polite society. Last one out, turn out the lights. Don't take any wooden nickels. And whatever you do, please, 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 don't piss upwind.